Welcome back to Double Speak, where we break down the moments that reveal more than the headlines ever will. Today, we're diving into a tense exchange on Capitol Hill, a hearing that put accountability, civil rights, and democracy under the microscope. The congressional hearing between Congresswoman Julie Johnson and Secretary Christy Gnome exposed deep flaws in immigration and customs enforcement operations and in the broader Department of Homeland Security. Johnson grilled Noem on why ICE agents often operate masked and without visible identification, a practice that's not only intimidating but dangerous. She warned that anyone can buy an ICE jacket online for under $20, creating a loophole for vigilantes or extremists to impersonate federal agents. That, she argued, puts immigrants and communities of color directly at risk. Noem defended the practice, saying undercover operations require anonymity, but her answers left a chilling gap, no clear solution to the impersonation problem.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Texas
Chairman.
to Texas.
And thank you, Madam Secretary, for appearing before our committee today. I want to address several issues. I'm going to try not to repeat a lot of issues that have been addressed, but I do have some substantial concerns over how ICE agents present themselves to the public. Oftentimes, we've seen many videos out there where they're masked and not properly identified. I have a lot of real personal concern about that. I just put myself in the situation of that woman from Tufts, for example. You're just walking down the street and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 3 masked men, not properly identified, attack you and try to take you away. I find that to be reprehensible and not the values of this country. What steps are you taking to make sure that your ICE agents are not masked and properly identified when they approach someone?
Well, ICE agents always identify themselves to individuals that they're encountering or that they're working with. What I would say, as far as if they are wearing something over their faces, it's oftentimes because that agent has been involved in undercover operations or needs to be able to continue the investigative work that they do.
Johnson didn't stop there. She called out ICEs, past attempts to deport people without due process, a move struck down by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional. Her question was simple but piercing. Will DHS finally comply fully with court orders? Or will these abuses continue under your watch?
I'd like to switch gears to due process. I have a lot of concerns about the lack of due process that your agency has been affording people in this country. In Texas, for example, you had rounded up 171 individuals, were preparing to deport them, and it wasn't until the Supreme Court issued an opinion that that was unconstitutional and that their due process rights were being violated did your agency actually stop and adhere to the Supreme Court's opinion. My question to you is, has those efforts ceased in your agency? Are you going to cease trying to deport people without access to due process in the courts of law in compliance with the United States Supreme Court?
Well, Congresswoman, we are following due process and using it as to how Congress has laid out to us in statute, and we are complying with all federal judges' orders as well.
You weren't complying at that time. It took the United States Supreme Court to order you to comply, so you hadn't proactively complied on your own. You were intending to wrongfully deport people without access to a court hearing, without access to the rule of law, and that is why it was necessary for the United States Supreme Court,
due process does not guarantee a hearing,
who issued an opinion ordering you and your agency to comply with the due process rights of the people in this country. That's what makes our country great, is we do have access to due process. And so my comment to you is I'm hoping as you move forward, because initially as you were proceeding through these deportation processes, you were not affording people due process, and the Supreme Court has now ordered you to do so. So I am assuming by your testimony that you do intend to comply with the Supreme Court's order moving forward, and we're not going to have any more instances of wrongful deportation without proper access to due process. Is that correct?
We are following federal judges' orders, and we are complying with due process
we look
procedures
forward to
as
that.
they are laid out, as Congress has given us those tools to do that.
Thank you.
Noem claimed compliance, but the lack of specifics raised red flags. Johnson's persistence revealed what many already fear. Executive enforcement often walks a fine line between law and overreach. Then came FEMA. Johnson contrasted Noem's past praise for FEMA's effectiveness with her current leadership, under which the agency seems politicized and underfunded. FEMA's decline, Johnson warned, reflects a broader erosion of competence in crisis management and a growing indifference to public safety. By the end, the hearing had become about something larger, the rule of law itself. When government agencies hide behind secrecy, ignore court rulings, and let impersonators roam unchecked, it's not just inefficiency, it's a threat to democracy itself. This hearing wasn't just about ICE or FEMA. It was about what happens when transparency and accountability fade. The cracks in our institutions don't appear overnight. They form when oversight stops and excuses take their place. Thanks for watching Doublespeak. If you value clarity over spin, hit subscribe, and let's keep pulling back the curtain on power.